What are some of the professions that are slowly dying? It depends on the product and the market. Commercial printing in the traditional sense does not provide a lot of value: pamphlets, mailing, brochures, etc. If we did not need those things, we would still have vehicles and buildings and apparel and products to package. I went from commercial to packaging, and it is so much less stress, longer lead times, different, often simpler workflows. One of my best friends owns a graphics company, doing exactly what you're talking about. Lots of wall decals, vehicles, sled, ATV wraps. Lots of commercial work as well, can do window perf for unique signage. Lots of small businesses don't have signage capital, so window decals are low-cost alternative. The equipment is expensive, but if you maintain it well it has a decent lifespan. The same machines can cut product like Spell and 3M too. And paint protection is an increasingly common addition to a new vehicle purchase. I can confirm that as fact. I'm a sales manager at a dealership. I would confidently say a well-run decal, graphics shop can have a hell of a good go. Lots of fun too. I've helped my buddy lots when he was just getting going, and it's a low-stress job. Obviously running a business is tough, but the work itself is pretty tame rather than, say, concrete construction. My father was a printer and repaired machines for free in his workplace. He the company's go-to guy and foolishly thought this ensured his job security, but nope, he was dropped after 30+ years with no severance. Funnily enough, it was a blessing in disguise. Without a job he qualified for Medicaid, which was ironically a godsend when he was diagnosed with cancer later that year. Without Medicaid, my parents would likely be bankrupt and probably would have lost their home after paying for treatments and hospital stays. With Medicaid, everything has been covered. So in a strange way, I'm grateful. But in another way it breaks my heart to imagine how my father felt being let go after so many years of being a hard worker. It was a major part of his identity. Fuck that place. If I could burn it down without getting caught I probably would. We have a franchise cobblers in the UK called Timpsons. They've managed to stay popular by becoming good at offering a range of niche specialty services. In addition to repairing your shoes and boots, they offer locksmithing and key cutting, personalized engraving and license plates for cars, among a few other things. Really knowledgeable in their trades and decent prices too. They really are the good guys. The benefits they give staff and their general ethos is brilliant. Everyone gets their birthday off, free access to holiday homes, etc. And as you say, they give everyone a chance in life. I cannot applaud them enough. People should take the time to read what they are all about. https://www.timpsongroup.co.uk/working-for-us/benefits/ and they do all this and are still a successful and profitable company, without the greed and corruption. Fucking good on you, Timpsons. They're expensive, compared to independent cobblers in my area, if you can find one. But maybe it's a good example of, well, if you want ethical practices and a good quality of employment from a large business, some of that cost is passed on to the customer. I have heard that they hire a lot of ex-cons and ex-soldiers, and all their shop managers are promoted from the shop floor, so to speak, so that's very cool for a large chain. But I still go to the cobbler and key cutter on my high street because it's a family business and I feel bad for them being squeezed by Timpsons down the road. Years ago, My good work shoes started to get a little thin on the bottoms. I vaguely remembered boring old people signs from when I was a kid that mentioned shoe repair and reselling, so I figured the logical thing to do would be to go get my shoes fixed up. The tops were still good, everything was still pretty solid. I'd just worn out the soles with all that walking and working. The folks in the shop looked at me like I was insane, like they were holding in laughter and trying not to shout, "What are you, 93? Just go buy new ones, stupid." They were still good shoes. I didn't need entirely new shoes. I'm sick of living in a just throw it away and buy a new one style society. And without cobblers, my dad never could have done his job. He was a professional racehorse jockey, and the kind of boots he required to do that don't exactly come off an assembly line nor out of a factory. I remember how upset kid me was that I couldn't have plain pro-looking boots like his. Had to settle for the stereotypical cowboy boots to give me a tall heel for the stirrups. Dad's boots cost hundreds, but in fairness, they were basically life or death level safety equipment during a race. If the heel breaks, foot slips through the stirrup, and instead of falling off cleanly you get dragged upside down by the ankle until the horse decides to stop. Edit. After everyone's advice and looking at the cost of proper reso label shoes, I have a question. Can somebody who is familiar with the technology for retreading tires adapt that for reselling sneakers? We live in 2021. Surely with all this advanced technology someone can figure out how to build a machine that adds a fresh layer of rubber or whatever to the bottom of worn sneakers. Certain types of shoes can't easily be resold like that. In fact, most shoes sold today are not resolvable because of the way we make them now. Look up Goodyear welted shoes. You can resole them when they wear through, but you also aren't getting a pair of G shoes for under $100. Almost all of my shoes are GWY now, but they aren't cheap. I have 2 pairs of boots and they ran me over $300 each. You invest a bit more upfront with the knowledge that if you take care of them they can last you decades and you have a higher quality product than buying a new pair every year or two. There are still cobblers around that will resole it, and even ones online you can ship to. Allen Edmonds is generally considered the entry to mid-level G shoe in the US, and they advertise a reselling service as a major benefit of buying their shoes. Photo lab technician. I've worked in a few different photo labs, and with the move to digital there really isn't a need for people who work with film. Edit. I should have clarified I was talking about wet labs specifically. I personally haven't seen any new places pop up for developing film, and I've lived in big and small cities over the years. I definitely agree with the people saying it's a niche market. I can't see it ever being as popular as it once was, and I definitely do see it completely dying out as technology continues to advance at such a fast rate. That being said, I do hope I'm wrong. Working in a lab to this day is the best and most rewarding job I've had. Sewing machine technicians. The 2 older gents that service mine are amazing. Been doing it most of their lives. They're lovely people and extraordinarily knowledgeable, but they're wanting to retire and there's no one to take on their business. They've tried to find apprentices but no one is interested despite them being in pretty high demand. The precision engineering in my industrial and domestic machines is extraordinary, and it makes me so sad that if they go wrong I might never find anyone to fix them. Edit typo. I just had this conversation today, so this is definitely weird to see. My best friend is a sewing machine mechanic. His parents own a quilt fabric shop and sell from basic to top-of-line sewing equipment, and he is their professional mechanic. Almost every machine he works on has been worked on by someone who thinks they can just pop a cover off and fix a machine. He almost always gets machines with screws in the wrong places and the tension messed up. After they figure out they can't do it, they end up taking it to the shop and having to pay him to do double the work. Oddly, this was exactly the same problem I had when I ran a computer repair shop. Edit. Back then there were basically two types of customer: the ones that would apologize for not knowing how to repair it themselves, which always made me smile, and the ones who opened the dialogue with the words, "I have a friend who knows a lot about computers." The latter I knew was going to be a nightmare to repair. My friend used to clip the metal springy bits on the inside of an I/O shield, the ones that make contact with all the ports, and, I believe, ground them to the case. At the time I told him it was a dumb thing to do, but I didn't know why, so couldn't argue effectively. He did it cause he just couldn't be bothered to align them whenever he put the MOBO in, especially when in a rush. We were assembling 50 computers that day too, so half had clipped I/O shields and the other half had decent cable management. Guess who that place hired on to maintain those computers? Not me. If you like the area in which you live, check out what machine shops exist within a desirable commute. If you are lucky, there will be a well-run shop that doesn't have an in-house technician. There are plenty of good shops that don't have a tech. Unless the shop is very large, they'll have one particular brand they carry. Think of them like car dealerships, which is reasonable considering how complex and expensive the top-of-the-line machines can run, greater than $15,000. So you would start out learning to service the one brand. You get to work with your hands in a relaxed environment, make people happy. Edit. My wife says there are plenty of training programs and you can work as an independent contractor who services for multiple shops in the area. She also says if you are in Ohio or want to move there to let me know. She would love to have someone to take on and train as a technician for her business. Source: my wife is an owner of a quilting, sewing shop, selling Bernina machines, and is the technician for them, in addition to marking, online stuff, which is what she actually likes and would like to find someone to train as the tech to take over. I was super interested until I was informed by the shop I was going to work for that pay was going to start at $14.00 per hour. If I was 18, I would have jumped at that in a heartbeat. But since this is a midlife career change, I couldn't take that kind of hit. But the demand is there, and the training is there. Starting young and working hard, I see the path to being a business owner. Yeah, sad to see, but it's true. Precision tool makers have been told by middle/upper management for 30+ years, "You are obsolete." I saw it firsthand in the 90s. I was legally blocked from learning tools, because in 10 years' time, computers will run everything. So I did introduction to computers 6 times until I got a job in retail. Guess how much those old, metal bending machines are worth now? Tens of thousands of dollars. Guess who can actually use them? Because in 10 years' time, computers will run everything. As an IT guy, I hate so much that notion. You see companies putting little screens and internet connections everywhere. Say whatever you want, your freezer has no business having an operating system. So many people are so wrong about what I can or can't do, or what I should do. You can see it in minor stupid things like Discord not allowing you to comment perfectly innocent pics because it thinks they're NSFW. It's funny because most people who oppose to I believe it will evolve into literally Skynet. Nah, computers will never have the wits for that. The real apocalyptic I scenario is society collectively giving every daily decision to the machines, becoming increasingly stupid and dependent, like the people at the spaceship in Wall-E. If the majority of stations weren't iHeart affiliates, maybe radio would be better. I love radio when you can hear some B-tracks and local flavor along with the hits, but when it's all top 40 or the same 60 songs from the 80s, it can get old. I miss radio the way I described it, as well as DJs that really made you feel plugged into the community. Every once in a while I'm in a small town where the radio is still like that, and it's such a breath of fresh air. I love hearing about the local high school sports matches alongside ads for the fish bait and tackle shop. 150? We have a radio station here that my employers refuse to change at our store, that plays the same 20 or so songs from the 80s. Never, ever changes. You occasionally get some Aussie or Audio Slave, but for the most part you're getting George Harrison and shit like that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the music is objectively bad, that would be dumb. It's a fucking nightmare when you hear it 200 times a day, non-stop for 2 years plus. I wish we had a radio station that played upwards of 150 songs. Now, what killed morning show people was podcasting and YouTube. Anyone who is even remotely funny, entertaining has moved there. The only radio DJ personalities who are left are already famous, too old to understand the new tech, or are just not good enough to make it. I worked on a cloud migration project for a radio station. The on-air talent made $3 over minimum wage, and most of them were part-time. Patreon and YouTube AdSense can top that pretty easily. This is sadly true. A good friend of mine, the man is a computer genius, and literally anything electronic he's learned how to repair and work them. Sometimes I go to his garage, he helps me repair my laptop, and tells me how he used to make more money in a week, repairing stuff for people than he would in a month's salary. Sadly, over the years, with shit being cheaper to buy new than to repair, he barely makes anything. He has his regular job, in a library, but his skills are really underappreciated and he could be doing something way better. He'd make a fantastic teacher, but at his age I don't think he really up for it. It's the risk factor. You take it to get repaired and it's all unknown. Since labor is up, there is a fee to look it over and estimate. Sure, that disappears if you accept, but that's built in their bid, and if it's truly broken, you've spent $25 and 2 hours to learn. You need to spend another $25 to safely recycle it. If they can fix it, it's between 30% and 40% of new cost if it's simple, and more like 65% to 70% of new if big. So then you have to debate spending 65% of new for something without a warranty. Artisans of various type. I'm Italian and my country is full of artisans and artists that can't just survive with the income of their product selling. The only few that are surviving are guided by young entrepreneurs that use internet and social media to export abroad. In this way we're losing a lot of traditional workers and works, and here in Italy it's actually a problem. The Japanese government heavily subsidizes their country's traditional artisans under its Living National Treasure program, most of whom are self-employed. I believe this subsidizing includes quite a lot of promotion and free advertising, which takes the form of human interest stories in the media, and spotlights in tourist guides. I'm pretty sure the Japanese Ministry of Culture even has a hub to connect willing apprentices with artisans looking to pass on their trade. Does the Italian government have a program like this for traditional artisans? With as old and rich an arts and crafts culture, and massive tourism industry, as Italy has, I can't imagine the government not being very invested in supporting these old codgers. The problem in Japan, though, is exactly what you say about craft workshops not wanting to join the 21st century. Learning a traditional Japanese craft by apprenticeship requires levels of patience, submissiveness, tolerance for hardship, and indifference to modern technologies that are not common today. Most of the few people willing and able to learn under these conditions are foreigners from developing countries, meaning that most Japanese craftsmen don't want them as apprentices, and the Japanese government doesn't want them as immigrants. I'd imagine this situation is similar in Italy, another country not at all keen on immigration.